everybody, welcome to Locker Room. This is Southland's podcast for men, where we demons conversations talk about the right things in the right ways. My name is Scott Hatfield. Thanks for checking out the podcast. This podcast is all about encouraging men to grow, become strong, and fight for the most important things. And I want to shout out to our Locker Room groups that are meeting at our different campuses. I want to say thanks for all the encouragement over these last couple of weeks as we kicked off this new series in 2024. And Locker Room, we got a good one today. We had the ladies on last week from Tell Me More, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of cackling. We laughed a lot, but it was good. Got a lot of good insight from them as godly women. And today we stacked the deck, loaded the table with some dudes, and we were supposed to have three. I'm going to be honest, besides me, so that would have been four. But today we just have three of us. John Sampson was supposed to come and be a part of this.
Call him out.
And you know, there's another church here in town, and they wanted to learn more from him, and he's so wise and blah, blah, blah. And so he said, I think I need to do that. So I said, that's fine, man. That's okay. But this is your last chance. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But these guys are friends of mine. They're guys on staff, and I have a ton of respect for both of these guys. And I love their heart for Jesus. They're great leaders. They represent Jesus and our church well. And I'm excited to have them on. So I'll let them introduce themselves. But fellas, how's it going?
It's going well.
Going great.
Hey, listen, when we do this, you just got to jump into traffic. It's all good. Don't worry about it. You can look at each other, nod, we can wink, whatever that looks like. It's totally fine. But I'll let you introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about yourself, your family, maybe even where you're from, how long you've been on staff, what you do, that type of thing. All right?
Yeah, I grew up right here. I was in Nicholasville, and I started coming to Southland when I was a junior in high school. I could drive. And
awesome.
So I said, I'm going to drive to the cool youth group. Which was great because it changed my life. Got called to ministry here, and have had the benefit to be able to now be on staff for almost 8 years.
Awesome.
I don't think I introduced my name. I'm Ian Schweitzer.
There you go.
Welcome.
So Schweitzer, spell that for everybody.
Schweitzer. It's a good one.
Man,
good one to learn as a kid.
I'm telling you.
The Germans.
Have you? I mean, how many times have you seen your name just butchered?
A lot of times. Schweitzers.
Yeah. What else they got? What else? Trying to pronounce it too.
Sometimes they just go for a full Schwarzenegger.
There you go.
That's a lot in high school.
That's nice.
They stop. They give up after the first three letters.
I got you.
So, yeah, I started
to the chopper.
Yeah, I started at student ministry here in Georgetown campus. Then I got to move.
Hey, who was your youth pastor by the time?
My youth pastor was Bryce Hansen.
Is that right?
It's funny. Behind the scenes, Zach, we were in the same youth group. We were just a year apart, so we went to Northern Ireland together. But yeah, nice. I had Bryce Hansen was my youth pastor, and loved his time here. But yeah, so then got to be on staff here. I've been everything. I've been a volunteer, an intern, a student. Now on staff. So,
wild.
Did groups and outreach for the past few years. And really enjoyed that.
Great job too, man.
Thanks, man. And recently, as if you're watching, Scott and I are repping the Southland residency. I'm now on the residency team, getting a chance to take young adults who want to be involved in ministry.
Yeah.
And a lot of we're thinking mainly postgraduates and seeing how they can fit into the church, how they can serve for a year with us, get a lot of good experience, and then be sent out to serve the church for a real long time. So,
which is really cool. And this is our third or fourth. This is our third year.
Third
We're in
class,
it right now.
Recruiting for our fourth class. I feel a bit like Coach Cal at times.
Yeah, you've been
they're all
in
one
some
and
places,
done.
right? You've been. I mean, what are some of the schools you've gone to?
Well, we get a lot here from UK even. Even though it's not like a Bible college, there's a lot of people that go to CSF or other areas that want to come serve. Ozark Christian College, a lot of people on staff here. I've been to Ozark, and so there. My alma mater, Johnson University. We'll be going down to Knoxville here in a bit, recruiting there. And then kind of everywhere, all over the place. So if you know people who are wanting to get into ministry or in that young adult phase of life, we'd love to talk to them. So
it's a great opportunity, man, for students to come through here to see what we do. Again, we do things a certain way. These are our methods, but man, it's cool for them to come and experience a healthy church and to be connected with, in basically kind of on the field, doing different areas of ministry. So, if you're interested in a number of different areas, then then it's a great opportunity for you to get to know some people, be mentored by some great people, and to experience ministry. It's an awesome thing. So
yeah, we love it. I think the only thing I didn't really hit on is my crew, my family.
Yeah.
So I got to marry a beautiful woman named Hannah. Back right before I started this job.
Yeah.
And so we've been married for 8 years. And we've got 3 kids. We have Peyton, who's 10. She's come to our family through adoption.
Awesome.
She's been with us for 5 years. We have Christian, who is 4, and Zoe, who is 2. So we got a full house. They hang with Mom.
Yeah.
We're a homeschool family.
Gotcha.
So, raising some future awkward kids, hopefully. And
listen to you. I don't think you're going to let that happen.
But no, we love it. We absolutely love it. So we're in a really sweet season of young kids and get to see them come to know Jesus. And
that's awesome.
So it's been great.
Very cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Locker Room, for having me on. Big fan of the show. Big fan.
Good.
So, my name's Daniel Mercer. Currently, I serve on our Connections team.
Yeah.
I help oversee our Nicholasville guest experience volunteers and also help lead the team of people who do that for all of our campuses.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm wearing orange today, representing Tennessee, is indeed I was born in Knoxville. So when I tell people that, they at least understand. They don't like it.
That's not the only reason you're wearing that.
Yeah, for other reasons. I wasn't going to bring that up, but, so go Vols. But we moved up here.
Please keep listening to this podcast.
Yeah, let's go. So, hey, I got some Vols fans out there. We got some text threads going.
There's 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Reach out to me. We'll add you to it. Let's go.
Right.
But I've been married to my beautiful wife, Ashley, for over 16 years. We were high school sweethearts.
How about that, buddy?
Met in... back in 2001, we started dating, so 23 years together coming up. So, yeah, she's been great. Love being a husband.
She a Kentucky fan?
She is not. Our whole family, you'll see them, they rolled in here all in orange on Sunday after the big win over UK. So,
well, I went and did an announcement for your group this weekend, and again, when this comes out versus when we record it, we're a little early, which is good, but. It was the day after, Sunday was the day after Tennessee came into town, and, man, we took a beating. It was a beatdown. And I thought, no, he's not going to. Certainly not. And so I walk into this meeting that he's got. And by the way, it's not that warm outside, but Mercer's got shorts on.
It's warm enough.
And they are this gaudy orange, and he's got T's all over him. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, man. But he did. He did.
I wear them up to 3 times a year on Sundays. So,
after every win.
After every win, yep. So they make me wear blue on
Football
Sundays. So
and basketball.
Got to throw a little orange in there, too. So
listen, there's room at the cross for everybody.
That's right. Let's go.
There is.
So kind of grew up in South Georgia mainly. Met Ashley in high school and actually started my undergrad at Georgia Southern, and then got my civil engineering degree from Georgia Tech. So the plan was to, be a power couple. My wife was just graduated nursing. I was going to be a civil engineer, and the market kind of crashed. And all throughout college was kind of involved in campus ministry, the Wesley Foundation down there, and in leadership and president and leading guys small groups and different things like that.
Yeah.
So the Lord was kind of training me in a different way for ministry. And so I was doing part-time youth ministry for a season there in Savannah, Georgia, and looking for civil engineering jobs, and they just kept not showing up.
That's crazy.
Didn't want to move, didn't want to do anything. And so finally I felt the call to, hey, I feel like I'm called to do this full time. And
That's
so
really cool.
when my wife finished her master's in nursing, we moved up here. I'd never been to Kentucky before we came to visit as
You
we're
went
in
north,
seminary.
man.
We came north, so came up here to the seminary. We visited Southland. You can't Google church in Lexington without Southland popping up. And I remember on their website at the time, there was the front page of the website just talking about the refuge clinic. And I'm like, how cool is it that we have a church that serves people who are underinsured or not insured at all in this way? So I'm like, Ashley, this is a way that you can jump in and serve. And so that was a big thing that led us to come try Southland. We came from a church of 120 people on Sunday morning, organ and piano and all that kind of stuff. Turned to, page 881 in the hymnal to Southland.
Yeah.
But the first moment we came, we knew this is where God was calling us to be, and so we jumped in, we leaned in. I started serving about a month after we got here as a 6th grade small group leader.
Yeah.
So did that for 3 years, working, full-time student down at seminary, working on my Master of Divinity, specializing in youth ministry, and then the Lord kind of opened up the doors along the way to jump on our middle school team here.
Yeah.
So I was leading our small groups and our leaders, and then I was grateful that we added another staff member to come and do that for the girls side of things.
Yeah.
So that added a lot of years of ministry to my longevity there. But after about 4.5 years of doing that, with our kids, we had added a couple more kids. So we have Colin, who's 12. He's in 6th grade now.
Yeah.
Kinsey is, she'll be 10 tomorrow, actually.
Very
She'll
cool.
turn 10 on February 8th.
Yeah.
And then our youngest is Kennedy. She's in kindergarten. And
Gotcha.
so with as Ian knows, 4 years of student ministry is not always the easiest. Family and schedules and summer trips and Wednesday nights and all that kind of stuff. So the Lord kind of called me out of student ministry and then into a different ministry here for guest experience. And so
talk about why that area is so important. If you've been to Southland, you see blue shirts everywhere, but talk about just why that area is super important to our church.
Yeah, I love it. I love leading our team. I tell people all the time, if I were not in ministry working, Southland is a place that our family would be involved. We'd attend, we'd be in groups, we'd be serving. The more we've been around, the more we see what the Lord is doing in and through Southland and the people that call it home. And so we know Southland is huge. We know Southland could be intimidating. For some people, we've heard comments of, well, it's too big and it's all that kind of stuff. But we realized because we leaned in, not only has Southland grown a lot smaller over these past 13 years that we've been attending, but Lexington is smaller because of...
Get to know people and relationships.
I play a game when I go to Sam's or Kroger, or how many people will I see from Southland? Over, under 4, 5, 6. Normally I hit that mark, and it's really cool to see that, or the soccer fields, or all around town, just seeing people, going out on vacation and coming back on a flight and saying, am I going to see somebody I know from church? So it's really cool. So definitely encourage people. Our team gets the opportunity to help people kind of get past that hesitation and really feel.
Because you walk in at any of our campuses, it's a bit overwhelming. You're not sure where to go, what to do, where to drop off your kids, all that kind of thing.
So our team's just there to help. They're here to welcome people to help them take a next step towards Collins Place home. And Southland's an awesome church. There are tons of other awesome churches in Lexington and all over. But we don't want, as a team, somebody to not get plugged in because they think it's too big or too loud or too crazy, or you can never find community or different things like that. So we're trying to help pave that way, roll out that red carpet to welcome people and make them feel loved, no matter where they are in their spiritual journey or they've never started at all. So
we want people to feel seen. We want people to feel valued and loved and cared for. That we don't just see crowds, but we see people. And that's super, super important. I'm grateful for both of you. You guys are both ultimate team players. You both lead with a lot of capacity. You both care for people in great ways, and you serve outside of your areas in lots of different ways as well. So just really grateful. And besides the fact that your marriages are strong and you have great kids, and that's something that's really, really cool about both of you. This is not in our notes, but it's funny. We showed up on Friday night. We all showed up at the father-daughter dance. It's ccalled Her Night. And I kept looking, and I thought, oh my gosh, these guys are all here too. We all signed up at the same time.
Samson was there too.
Samson was there too with his daughter. I mean, he showed up for that. Can't show for this, but
I think I have my socks on.
Do you?
Can we get that info?
How about that?
My Her Night socks.
That's right.
Yeah, that's
2024
nice.
edition.
That's right. I know they had the same pair as last year, but I'm not complaining. Anyway, but if you're a dad with daughters and this thing goes up to age 12, and if you've never done this, you should check this out. And they do 5 of these on this past weekend, and you'll have to look for what next year looks like. But I've gotten to take my oldest daughter. We did this in Seattle the first time, and man, we would dance the night away. I split my pants a number of times just dancing so hard. So I got to figure out what to wear because it can be problematic. But talk about just what that dance has meant for you guys, just getting to bring your daughters to it. Talk about that.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing my sister go with my dad to
cool.
daddy-daughter dances and dates and being upset that I didn't get to go. Like,
yeah, man,
I want some of that. But,
yeah.
So it was really cool. Like, we got I was gifted a 5.5-year-old daughter, through foster care originally, and you're just swimming. You're trying to figure out how do you do this well.
That's right.
And so this is just such a perfect opportunity. I've heard a lot more about it too. They really want to set dads up well to win with their kids, their daughters specifically, and so it's a blast. We dress up. She gets to pick which suit and tie I wear.
Yeah,
and, we kind of go all fancy like, and we have a lot of fun. She just loves staying up late.
Yeah.
She loves the food. She loves the Congo line, none of which involve me. But she likes going. Yeah. And then, you got to make it. We end up seeing each other ice cream afterwards, too.
Yes,
so
we did.
It was a good, good little after event.
It was a good move. Yeah.
It is a blast.
Yeah. Have you done it a couple of times now?
That was probably our 4th time going to the dance. It's been a lot of fun, and just getting to see it. And also, I mean, what especially her night does, like they give away almost all the money they make to
it's a nonprofit
charities like Assurance here. We support other places, so it's really cool.
Yeah. How about you, buddy?
I love it. Great time. It's probably our 5th year, maybe.
You brought both of yours, right?
Both girls. So we just
it's hard to dance with two.
Tag team,
but we figure it out.
Yeah. We team it up. So our oldest, her friend goes with her as well, and her dad. So they get to kind of have their moment, and I can hang with Kendi, our youngest. And but I love it. Just a great intentional time to get together. Schedules are so busy. They're always so busy. But to be able to put something on the calendar, plan for that. I'll try to go. Find a dress and, do that stuff for the girls. And Ashley was able to, we did the late night session this time. Normally we do the earlier one, but
gotcha.
Ashley got to be home and help get the hair and makeup and all that kind of stuff ready to go. But just a good time, hanging, dancing, taking pictures, creating memories that I'll remember forever. And I know they will too. So. And we did ice cream too, but I don't know. We went to Baskin Robbins. Where'd y'all go?
Freshies.
Went to
Freshies.
Spot.
It was like 15 minutes. We got in there 15 minutes before we were supposed to close. And these 3 high school girls were like, hey, it's a Friday night. It's super cold outside. We're going to get out of here. And all of a sudden, just men and their daughters came in.
A bunch of dudes in suits with their daughters coming in.
What is happening here? What is happening?
Love it.
So in this with her night, and if you're brand new to Lexington or you're newer to this, it happens at Keeneland near the airport. Registration. I cannot emphasize to you enough that when registration opens, you got to be ready because these things go. I've heard people say they're going in 10 minutes, and so
if not quicker than that.
Yeah, and so they have 5 sessions. They do 2 on Friday, 3 on Saturday. Again, they won't do it till next February. But if you've got daughters between 0, they're babies, and they're 12. They can attend. And so it's a 2-hour event. It goes really, really fast. I sweated like crazy. We had so much fun. I partnered with a couple other dads, too, and their daughters. So we just danced and partied. And it's the coolest thing to see dads in that environment, And it's one of those things where I even told our daughters, because, you can get all wigged out about dancing if you don't dance. It's like, hey, listen, man, we're just going to have fun. Who cares? It doesn't matter. Let's just enjoy it. And it's so fun to look around and see slow dances with dads and their daughters, or just guys, just going nuts out there. It's so fun. So if you've got girls, man, you need to make this a priority, and you can go to hernightdance.org to learn more about that. And again, I'm just going to say this one more time because I love you and I want you to be able to attend. You need to be ready before registration opens. As soon as it opens, you need to get your tickets online quickly because this thing goes 5 sessions. I mean, it's crazy. But it just tells you that, dads are figuring this out and that this is important. So
I don't want to correct you at all. It is age 4 to 12.
4 to 12, thank you.
Don't be bringing those toddlers,
Yeah,
they got to be able to really dance.
That's right.
You want to bring them.
Maybe spell a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's good. All right, so 4. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Hey, listen, this is what we do. There may be some other things that you'll need correction for. This is important.
I don't know how to be a guest on this podcast.
Listen. I don't want some guy to bring his baby and they go, "Hey, I'm sorry you got here."
Scott Hatfield told me.
You and Charlotte can't be in here today. All right, you're gonna have to dance outside.
That's good.
Anyway, hey, before we dive into this series, because we're wrapping up the series, I thought it'd be fun just for them to get a chance to get to know you and with us laugh a little bit. And so I got some random questions. And so the first one is, what's the worst haircut, hairstyle, or clothing choice other than what you have on today, Mercer? That's a clothing choice, let me tell you. But that you look back and you regret. maybe in high school or
I've got 'em.
elementary? You got them? Do you?
Yeah, clothing style. When I was in 8th grade, I decided to go full into the Sean John attire, which is the clothing line of one P. Diddy, rapper and business mogul.
P. Papa Diddy Daddy.
And so, I liked it. It was like, calf length jorts, giant shirts. I was going for it. I didn't probably fit the exact mold of what they made those clothes for. Yeah. But it was funny because in like junior year, I went straight from that to the exact opposite, like Hollister, super tight tees. And people were just being on a roller coaster.
Right.
Yeah. What is he going to show up in today? But that was definitely, you look back and like, I probably should have made better decisions with what I wore, just to fit more of who I was.
Yeah.
And I will say one time my mom tried to fix a haircut of mine.
Okay.
And it was kind of like there was an angle here on the side. Yeah. So she got, the little trimmers that,
clippers.
And I remember her just like, essentially, we called it putting a hole in my head, which it happened when I was 13 years old. And there's not much worse that can happen than something like that. So the idea to make up for it was she quite literally put makeup on my head that matched
Try to darken the spot.
Try to darken it. And the first time I really experienced the grace of God was one kid named Marcus was like looking at me weird. Yeah. And he was like, dude, you got something on your head? And this other kid who usually was like the worst was like, dude, he doesn't have anything in his head. What are you talking about? And like it erased it into where like if that would have been found out in middle school, it would have been over that Ian's got makeup on his head covering his bad haircut.
P. Diddy's got something on his hair.
Yeah, and imagine also with the Sean John.
That's great.
So, it's hilarious.
My story pales in comparison to that, but that's a great one, Ian. Thanks for sharing. I look back middle school days. I'd say just straight, just bowl cut. That was my my go-to. Good bowl cut, but with a little divide right in the middle.
Oh, nice.
It's like a butt cut, bowl cut.
Little Dwight Schrute action.
Yeah, a little action there. I know as far as clothes go, grateful my parents didn't have the money to spend on the clothing that was in style that I wanted at the time. Yeah. But during those days, it was definitely like the Jinko days of like the Jinko jeans, Jinko shorts that were just huge at the bottom. I mean, like you could fit like a whole family of raccoons in your pant leg. But that was the style.
It, but
hundreds of dollars for these things. And it's just ridiculous. But who knows? They could come back next week because that's what things do.
So, wait 5 minutes. You never know.
Grateful I did not wear those, but that was what I wanted to wear in the time because that was popular.
Hilarious. I had a perm in the back when I was in 6th grade.
Those are back.
Yeah.
They are back.
They are back.
Yeah. So I dated this girl named Tina, and she's like, man, and I had long hair, and she's like, you know what would look really good? And we just started dating. She's like, it'd look good if you had a perm in the back here. My mom puts perms in my hair. She could do one in yours. And I was like, really? She goes, you think it look good? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, well, if Tina wants it, she's going to get it. And so I go over her house. I buy this perm, this like box of perm. I didn't even know those things existed. I go over to her house. It stinks to high heavens. Mm-hmm. I get done, and it's flown in the back, just in the back. And like a week later, she breaks up with me. Yeah. And I think about her every day.
Tina is a great 90s girlfriend.
It is, isn't it?
That's a good one for stories.
That's great.
Anyway, I had hammer pants, I had parachute pants, I had pleather pants. Man, I mean, just these along the way. I used to, tight rolled them. My senior year, I've got a suit on in my picture, Mr. Fairdale, and I've got this gray suit on that I got from like probably county seat or whatever that was, and it's I've got my leg propped up with Mrs. Fairdale, and I've got my suit pant tight rolled. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But anyway, pet peeves. Got any pet peeves? Anything that really drives you crazy? And you don't have to say whether or not it's your wife that does it, but sometimes our pet peeves definitely come from the people that we love the most.
Yeah. I think one of mine is, I call it passive line standing. Like, I believe in the order of things.
The structure.
Structure
I'm
should
liking
happen.
this already.
So, like, if there is a 5-foot gap between you and the next person, fill that.
What are we doing?
People are going to think there's room to cut or I'm trying to judge which line is best.
This thing close all of a sudden?
So just be aware.
Yeah.
Be off your phone.
Keep scooting.
Take a step forward.
Yeah, just keep scooting.
That does bother me.
Does it?
Decent amount.
Does it? I was in line picking up Everly yesterday from school. Got there pretty decent, and or the day before, and yeah, I'm pretty far back, but I can see, and like there was a mom, and I've done it, so I can't throw stones, but she's not paying attention, and I mean now there's a significant amount of space between where she should be and where she is. And I'm like, should I beep? I mean, this is a Christian school. It feels weird, Hey, what's your deal? And so finally, like the lady's waving to her, like she's going, and she just is totally on her phone. And I've done it, but yes, the passivity of that. It's like, hey man, we're getting somewhere. We're all trying to get somewhere.
You don't got to be aggressive.
Yeah,
just be assertive,
or just lay on the horn and then look around like, who did that?
Jeez, man, I'm sorry about this. Good grief. What about you? You got any?
I got a few here.
Okay.
One, anytime someone tells me we need to talk, but they don't tell me what they want to talk about. So
I get that.
My mind always goes to the worst case scenario. Like we could talk, just tell me what we're talking about and we're good. But I don't know. Second of all, when people do not open resealable packages correctly. So the ones that have like the zipper still in there, and like here's the way to open it, here's the way to close it, keep it nice. They just rip through it, tear it open, all that kind of stuff, open it from the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't like that. And then finally, I think probably my biggest, when basic logic seems to go out of the window.
Okay.
For example, sports, when there's like a glaringly undisputable bad call in a sporting event, that even replay doesn't help them overturn.
Yeah.
I was looking up, remember like 2014 Cowboys-Packers playoff game. I'm a Steelers fan, so I have no dog in this fight.
Okay.
But I remember Des Bryant caught a touchdown, and they overturned the touchdown, said it was incomplete because he bobbled the ball.
Yeah.
Even though the ball never touched the ground, he was never out of bounds, all that kind of stuff.
As a Packers fan, he dropped the ball.
He did not. Never touched the ground. See, logic just right out the window. So when
great call, refs.
When they're looking at this, but what they should be looking at is over here, the totally wrong thing. I just... Gotcha. Cowboys lost by 5, so Ian enjoyed that game.
I did. I really did.
Clicking a pen is a bad thing for me. Like I can move to rage quickly. I mean, quickly. I've called people out while I'm teaching, at least 2 different times. First time I did was in Seattle. We gave out these nice pens, first, guest experience stuff. We gave them out, it said Resonate Church on it, our website, all this kind of stuff. And it's a great pen, man. And so the people are taking notes, and there's kids in there, and you just clicking away. And I'm hyper vigilant. I hear everything, I see everything. I'm ADD, and so I'm looking around. I'm like, and so finally I was like, hey, can you do me a favor, little guy? Can you please stop clicking that pen? And I'm sorry I embarrassed you, but this is a lot going on in here, And then one time at Fight Club, we did this at the Lexington campus. Some guy was clicking his pen. I said, hey, real quick, I don't know who's doing this. It doesn't matter. But if you would do me a favor, a really sweet, important favor, is just don't click that pen, brother. I love you. And then we kept going. And so it's bad. It's really bad.
Got to call it out.
Got to call it out. FaceTime without headphones. I love it when I'm walking around the store and you're like, oh, you're not talking to me. Oh, and you're just having a wide open conversation without your AirPods in. That's kind of weird. When people get on planes, okay, and listen, I get it. You want some slip-ons or whatever to get in and out because you got to go through all of this, and there's plenty of people. I don't care if you wear flip-flops. It's fine. But it's a weird thing when people don't have shoes on and they just prop their feet up or they put their feet on stuff, and you're like, okay, that's gross. And we're going to be here for 3.5 hours. That's disgusting. And then one more I just added recently, Monday. There are others.
You got a list that you've written down.
It's grievances. But anyway, I was in Cane's in Georgetown Monday
Love
night.
it.
Love Cane's.
Big fan.
Big fan.
Great restaurant.
Love their sauces, their sauce. I love it.
Hot and fresh.
I get done eating, and you got to eat Cane's with your hands. I mean, it's so you got a little bit of something on it. So I go into the bathroom, and again, this is just that Cane's. It maybe just was something that they didn't do right, but I'm washing my hands, and I go to do the magic with the paper dispenser that comes the paper towel, and when it came out like 2.5 inches.
Oh wow! Yeah,
I was like,
it's not good for anything.
So I wave it again. It doesn't do anything. It's like, no, this is it. This is it, buddy. So I rip it off, and I do it again, thinking, well, maybe just somebody messed something up. 2.5 inches. Bro. So I'm like ripping off little pieces of sheets, and that's
budget cuts, man.
Saving the trees.
Budget cuts.
These hands are, pretty big hands.
Yeah, man hands.
And you need a little bit more. And it was like, I just kept going. And it's like it's like craft night, trying to get all this together. Unbelievable. It's despicable, I'll be honest. We should get better at this. But anyway, sorry.
I like it.
Maybe you feel that way, maybe you don't. It's okay. We've already talked about about Tennessee fans. Listen, we're glad you're here. It'd be cool if Rick Barnes could, I don't know, lose part of his gameplay, because he seems to have our number more often than not.
I'll talk to him about it, but I don't know if he will.
I think he knows the Lord too, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
That's pretty cool.
He's probably a good guy.
Great guy.
Well, hey, we're wrapping up the series, Ethos of Godly Men, and we're talking about the values, beliefs, characteristics, kind of distinctive actions of what this looks like, because we're trying to build a culture of godly men, and the reality is our ethos is what drives everything, and we want men to follow our leader in King Jesus. So we've been a lot of different places. The first week, just to open up the brand new year in the series, was start something and stop quitting. So we talked about 3 distinctives there. Inside of that, you can check that out for yourself. Week 2, we had Nickel on, and we basically unpacked his sermon, How to Be Hated in 3 Easy Steps, simple steps. And just because culturally there's so much going on, and for us as men to begin to recognize what's around us so that we can stand in the middle of the field with Jesus, and we're going to take shots, and that's part of it. And so we're going to trust him in it, and we're going to do it, and we're going to do it rightly. And then Nickel came on again, and we talked about 4 distinctive actions of godly men. And so we spent some time there. If you didn't get to listen, you're welcome to check it out. Last week we had the ladies on, and they were a hoot and gave us a lot of perspectives from women. It was a lot of fun and hilarious. And today we're going to talk about just our values as godly men, just kind of our values that drive our ethos. And here's it: if your values are strong, then that will drive you to do the right things. And if they're not good, then don't be surprised at the direction of your life and your relationships. And so excited about having you guys on. And as we talk about these 6 values, these characteristics, they're mission critical to building culture in godly men. And so I hope these are things that all of our listeners will think about personally, but also think about in community as they're building relationships with other guys, or they're mentoring other guys, or they're thinking about their sons and daughters. These things matter. So these 6 things that we're going to talk about, they aren't new to us. They're just new to our guests or those who are listening. But these are actually our staff values. And as I wrestled through this, I thought, man, these are solid for guys. And so these 6 things that we're going to talk about first came into our world as we think about our staff relationships and who we are and what drives us and how we operate as a team. And so, and hopefully this will be something that, and gentlemen, I think this is probably worth you jotting down some things today, is we're going to look at these 6 values, and there's 6 H's, okay? And Weiss wrote these, and so, it can feel sermonic because of that, but they're in some ways great ways to remember. And so we'll unpack the first one. The first H, as we think about godly ethos of men, is holy. And as soon as I say holy, our minds flood probably a lot of different directions, and we think about who God is, and the Bible says that God is holy, and the Hebrew word for holy is Kodesh. And literally that word means to be separate or set apart. And the word holy or holiness in the Bible is basically around 900 times. It's referenced. And so the Bible speaks about God's holiness more than any other attribute of God, which is important for us to understand, because it means it's important to him. And so as we think about God, it means that he at least in part, this is what makes God who he is. We're talking about absolute purity. We're talking about he is not stained by sin or evil. He is perfect in every way, perfectly good all the time. And so the Bible says in 1 Samuel 2:2, it says, "There's no one holy like the Lord. There's no one besides you. There's no rock like our God." And I'll share just this passage because I thought, there's a lot of different passages we could have gone with this. But I thought this was an interesting one, and I want to move us to the Old Testament in Isaiah. He's given a vision that completely disrupts his entire life. I mean, one day when we get to heaven and we get to talk to Isaiah, I want him to tell us about this moment. But Isaiah 6:1-5, it says, "In the year King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. And above him were seraphim. each with 6 wings, with 2 wings that cover their faces, with 2 wings that cover their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. And at the sound of their voices, the doorposts and the thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. And then here's Isaiah's response. Woe to me, I cried, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord God Almighty. This is around 740 BC. King Uzziah has just died, which kind of ends a season for God's people. Their national prosperity is beginning to take a dip. Isaiah is a prophet of God. And you know this with prophets. There's so much up and down with God's people. You know, it feels like a middle school relationship. God's constantly trying to bring them back to him. And so this perpetual pattern, God rescues them, they repent, they return to God, and then they get comfortable, they forget God. Even like us, we do it too, you know. And then they begin to chase everything other than God's best, and then all of a sudden the prophets send, and after their lives fall apart, he sends these prophets to call them back to a place of repentance, and then people do. And they realize their own waywardness, and they come back to God. But Isaiah sees this vision. He sees the Lord, and again, I don't know if he saw the Lord in his face, but it says he saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on a throne. The train of his robe filled the temple. And then he says, he inserts seraphim, which again, you know, maybe some other people have seen those. I haven't. These fiery angelic beings, seraphim means flames. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, that has nothing to do on what Isaiah saw. These seraphim had 6 wings, and 2 of them are covering their faces, like they're in God's presence, and they cannot look at God. He's that holy. 2 covered their feet, and with the other 2, practically speaking, they flew with them, you know. And then he hears this, Isaiah hears this chanting, or this declaring, or this singing, or this repeating, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty. The whole earth is filled with his glory. And then it says the doorposts and the thresholds of the temple began to shake. I mean, I've never really been in an earthquake, but man, to feel that would be overwhelming. And Isaiah doesn't join the seraphim. He doesn't start singing or chanting what they're saying. He doesn't even really say a word for a moment, because he's overwhelmed by being in God's presence, a God who is set apart, a God who is like no other. And he says, woe to me, I am ruined. I am a man of unclean lips. I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. And so he's filled with awe. He's broken, overwhelmed by the presence of God. And so as I talk about that, what do you see in this passage? You know, it's hard to put ourselves in a prophet's shoes here, but can you imagine being in that? And some of this, I think sometimes we get too comfortable with God. You know, like I've seen plenty of shirts that say, Jesus is my homeboy. And it's like we get really complacent when it comes to the God of the universe that we get to talk to. This kind of right-sizes that. It reminds us of his power and his presence, and he's holy. So go anywhere you want to with this passage. And
yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I think we forget just how powerful God is, because most of the stories we read about, like in the Gospels, is how Jesus took a step to be so relatable to humans, which is great and true and totally. Absolutely. But we forget that at the expense of God's power and holiness, and we think of him as a companion, but forget he's a creator of everything. So I think this vision of Isaiah helps remind us of just how powerful God is. Yeah. I know in the Old Testament, I mean, you couldn't even say God's name, you know. Instead of Jehovah, you had to take out the vowels and, you know, Yod-Heh, Vah-Heh, because you just couldn't say the whole word, and so, or even write it in Scripture.
Even the temple, where, I mean, it's like the priest had to go into the Holy of Holies. He had to have a rope on his leg just in case there was something not good in his life. Man. They'd have to drag that dude back out of there. You know, you imagine that's a scary thing to go, hey, am I good?
Yep.
Life good? Because I'm entering into the Holy of Holies.
Yeah.
You know?
I know the Bible Project has a great video, helps explain kind of this concept of God's holiness. They use a metaphor of the sun. It says it's unique to our solar system. It's powerful. It helps give life to everything on Earth. It's good, but it's also so dangerous as well. Yeah. It's funny. We love the idea of the sun from this far away. Yeah, that's right. It's like 30s outside today. We're like, we want a little more sun. Can't it be 70s? Yeah. But
It sure is easy to run. It's easier to run barefooted.
Exactly.
Right.
But if you got too close to the sun, it would literally melt your face off along with the rest of your body.
Yeah.
So God's that way. Like he's so powerful that we're unable to get closer to him in our current state. So we'd be wise to remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could all grow in our awe in the presence of God. And we see from the Bible people that interacted with angels and how terrified they were of angels.
Yeah.
And then you take those creatures that we're terrified of, and they won't even show their face. And all they can do is just say, holy, holy, holy. It's interesting, the words they picked, it was holy. Mm-hmm. That was how they wanted to describe God, these heavenly beings who know God in that intimate way. So, I was definitely thinking that Jesus, my homeboy, God's my co-pilot. Like, I think he got a little bit small version
he's your
of
co-pilot?
God.
He's in the shotgun seat?
That's right. He's not even driving.
Yeah. You better give him the wheel.
So, I think that's just a great thing to, when we wake up in the morning, get in our knees and pray, just to know we are not talking to a small God. No. We are talking to the creator of the universe and everything in it. And we should always come from a posture of being in awe of who God is.
Absolutely. Another facet of this word holy is that God makes us holy. Usually when we hear the word holy, we go, that's not me. I mean, I'm definitely not that. But what's interesting is because of Christ's finished work on the cross and his invitation of us to follow him and our willingness to go, you know what, I need that, I want that, I'm desperate for it. He makes us holy, and he calls us holy. And that, the biblical term is justification, which just means that Jesus' death took our place. He's our substitutionary atonement. And so the penalty that we owed God paid for. And so because of that, we don't owe him anything. The wrath of God was placed on Jesus, and because of that, we are now declared not guilty. And it means because of Christ, we move from a state of sin and guilt and shame to a state of grace, mercy, and forgiveness. And this is a cataclysmic shift for us. Our standing changes before God. God trades our sin for his righteousness, which is 2 Corinthians 5:21. The Bible says that in our baptism that we're clothed with Christ, Galatians 3:26. When God sees us, he doesn't even really see us. He sees Jesus, 1 Corinthians 1:30. And Paul talks about this a number of times, and this is 1 Corinthians 6, where he's talking about who they were and who they are now. And he talks about, he's pretty clear about this. Hey, there's all these people that are not going to inherit the kingdom of God. And he brings up a long laundry list: evildoers, those who lie, do wrong, the sexually impure, homosexuals, those who commit adultery, thieves, greedy, drunkards, slanderers. It's a pretty long list that just puts a big circle around every person on the planet and every listener that's listening. And then Paul says, 1 Corinthians 6:11, and this is what some of you were. But now you were washed, you were sanctified, you were justified in the name of the Lord Jesus and by the Spirit of our God. This is huge for us. As you think about that, because all of us have a backstory. All of us have a time before Jesus. Think about how powerful that is, that God looks at us and he doesn't see our deepest, darkest, our biggest regrets. He doesn't see that. Talk about, it's crazy that God sanctifies us. He calls us his own, and he calls us holy. How does that change the way that we view ourselves as men?
Yeah, I think of just the idea of being co-heirs with Christ.
Yeah.
Paul talks about that in Romans, and that means we get the same inheritance Jesus does. We get the same standing in front of God that he does.
Yeah.
And probably the verse that made the biggest impact in my life is when Jesus gets baptized and he comes out of the water.
Yeah.
The skies open up, Spirit descends like a dove, and the Father speaks, "You are my beloved Son.
Yeah.
With you I am well pleased."
Yeah.
And someone once gave that verse to me when I was trying to figure out, like, am I doing enough? Am I getting this right? It feels like I'm not ever... I'm trying to be holy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, guess what? You can't do that. But because of one decision you made to follow Jesus,
that's right,
you get this same blessing. You are the beloved Son of God.
Yeah.
And he's really proud of you.
Yeah.
And when then we shift to acting out of that identity as opposed to trying to earn that identity, it changes everything, and we can actually then have the freedom to go be holy and be set apart in the way we do things without trying to earn it.
Yeah, that's
good. Yeah, I know. Worked through with one of my guys' groups a couple of years ago, Mark Moore's book, Core 52, which we give out to people who get baptized.
It's a great resource.
Great resource. Yeah. Definitely check it out. They have a great chapter on the concept of holiness. In there it says, holiness happens when God takes ordinary objects and claims them for his purpose. Yeah. It says holiness is received, not achieved. It happens when God proclaims, not when a person performs. Or stated another way, we're not holy because of our performance, but because of God's proclamation. Yeah. So then and only then, when we are in awe of his choosing us, will our actions begin to reflect a life of obedience marked by humility. So it starts with him. It always starts with him. Yeah. The good news, bad news of, we can't ever do anything to earn that, which seems bad, but it's good because God's already done what we need to receive that. So.
Yeah, every man is asking the question over and over again, hey, am I a good man? I mean, looking at my life or looking at my past or thinking about where I am, the decisions I'm trying to make, am I a good man? And the reality of Scripture tells us, hey, Jesus says none of us are good. And what's interesting is that once he's died on the cross and he's resurrected that first Easter Sunday morning, and he invites us to follow him, it's in that we're declared good, worthy, holy, and that's a mindset change for us. And so many guys struggle with identity. Here's who God says that you are, and here's what he's done for you. And this is what he declares about your life. And it's not dependent on your past or what you do today or what you don't do today. It's about the author and sustainer of life, the creator of life, who says, hey, you're now in me, and because you're in me, you're holy. And that's super important. And again, you kind of move toward this, but it's not about what we do or don't do. It's about what Jesus has done for us. It's not based on us. It's not based on all the great things I'm going to try to do for God this next year or even today. It's based on who he is in my life and what he's done for me. The cross is enough. The empty tomb is enough. And so he makes us holy. And then this last part that I think is important is that he declares us holy, but he also calls us to pursue holiness. And this is a big challenge for men. He's called us to be set apart, which means if we're going to live set apart, it means we ought to look different than the world. We shouldn't just look like the world. We shouldn't date the way the world does. We shouldn't marry the way the world does. We shouldn't talk the way the world does. We shouldn't make decisions the way the world does. We shouldn't chase our feelings the way that the world does. We should live distinct lives. And so here's Pete, and that could have brought a million passages, but Peter says in 1 Peter 13 through 16, it says, therefore, with minds that are alert and fully sober, set your hope on the grace to be brought to you when Jesus Christ is revealed at his coming. As obedient children, do not conform to the evil desires you had when you lived in ignorance, because, man, that's all of us. But verse 15, but just as he who called you is holy, so be holy in all you do. He's called us holy. He's saying, hey, and be holy in all that you do. For it's written, be holy because I'm holy. Talk about just why that's powerful. And the fact is that there's a lot of challenges for men as it relates to trying to pursue holiness. And so what are some of those challenges? And when he calls us that, how does that feel for you when he goes, man, I call you holy, and I'm asking you to live set apart and pursue the right things. What does that look like for you all? And as you think about men in our culture, some of their struggles too.
I think we talked about it earlier too. Just identity for men is a big struggle that we have. Starts there, and more specifically, just where we receive our identity. I think in the world we live in, the culture, we fall into the trap. Start believing who we are is defined by our job, our title, our paycheck, our diploma, what car we drive. Even Nickel mentioned what name we can drop to impress people. When in reality, the only healthy and realistic source of our identity is God. And so when we truly believe and embrace what he says about us, all those other things just fall by the wayside. When we believe and know that we're made in his image and chosen for his purpose, I think we're more likely to pursue the calling he has for us, to really say, okay, I do believe that I can do what you've called me to do because you will be walking with me as you call me to do it. So I think it starts there. That was a big thing kind of in seminary. I learned some things. I think I forgot more than I learned about Hebrew and, Greek and all that kind of stuff. I think the identity piece was a big part of my season down there that really helped me get a healthy understanding and move forward in some ways that the Lord wanted me to do. So,
right on.
Yeah, I think just looking different is the only way to really make a difference. If you're going to, we have to stand out and look and say, clearly we have better relationships, better, we're doing this in a different way, the way God has called us to, and there is health in that. And the more we do that as believers, the more we decide to be set apart and live holy lives, the more attractive it's going to become to a world that continues to just see destruction because of choosing against God. Yeah. And so when we're set apart, we can really be a light to the rest of the world.
The way we work, the way we marry, the way we invest in our kids, the decisions we make. I mean, all of a sudden, if you'll try to do the right things and pursue holiness, you'll stand out, man. Yeah. And people will ask questions.
And so, I think that's just an opportunity to take on this mission to go and make disciples. Yeah. We can do that simply by living this set apart, holy life.
Yeah. So, Locker Room, this first value is pursuing holiness. Holiness should be important to us, and we should begin to think about what that looks like and how we can pursue it. The second area is a word that's known as harmony. Harmony sounds like a weird word, and again, it's our core values for our staff. There are other ideations of this word, harmony, but harmony is a word that instantly moves my mind toward like bands, like a cappella groups. And so I started thinking about this. And so they're classic bands that have great harmony. The Eagles, Queen, the Beach Boys, Heart. I mean, they're unbelievable. R&B bands like Earth, Wind & Fire, the Supremes, the Temptations. One of my favorite, Lionel Richie and the Commodores. And don't forget Boyz II Men. You know what I'm saying? Yep. I mean, those dudes can sing. Country bands like Alabama, the Oak Ridge Boys, the Zac Brown Band. Saw them right before COVID in concert. They're unbelievable. Pop bands like NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys and One Direction. New Kids on the Block. I'm taking you all over the place. Acapella groups like Pentatonics. I mean, those dudes, those men and women are unbelievable. And so as I mention all these things, is there anything that floods your mind about some of these different bands or songs, or maybe even a band that I didn't bring up that you go, man, this band right here was unbelievable? Anything that comes to your mind?
I think there's something unique about a family hunt, like when they work. So my favorite band is actually the Avett Brothers. They're not as well known, but they're kind of in the folk genre. Yeah. But they do incredible work. And then also, my favorite family, my father-in-law is a bit of a local.
Is that right?
He can do a lot. He's a good country music singer. Yeah. He's been in a lab band with Vandy and them, and so anytime I'm anywhere near like a bar with him and my wife, I'm like, we're getting you on that karaoke stage. And I convinced him a recent trip back in October and got on. I was like, yes, if we can get him up there, it's going to be a fun time because they're going to be able to harmonize well because they're family. She was raised like singing with him and just having that gift.
It's crazy. Yeah. What about you? What bands or artists?
Good. Bee Gees. I throw them in there too.
Man.
I love some good disco stuff with them.
Jimmy Kimmel does a lot of the Bee Gees stuff.
Oh yeah,
with
great times.
Justin Timberlake.
Had to think just with the name harmony, Bone Thugs. Harmony. There you go. Meet you at the crossroads.
We're reaching all audiences today.
Yeah, going back. It's all like I think Nickel talked about. You're kind of locked into that age, whether it's 10 to 14 and whatever it is. So that's my world back then. So
New Edition was was my first concert, and man, those dudes, unbelievable, man. Or Lionel Richie and the Commodores. I never saw them in concert, but man, it's like butter. I mean, those guys are unbelievable. How there's differences in their voices, but yet it's one voice, man. It's unbelievable. Here's what we know: we recognize harmony. Harmony is unmistakable. It's powerful. It's memorable. And here's what we also know: a lack of harmony is very obvious. Somebody is just a little pitchy, out of tune, stands out. You notice it. It becomes glaring. And the reason I think, music's just kind of a metaphor for what we're really talking about, which is, at least in this core value for our staff, it's how we think as a team. It's about eradicating pride. It's about guarding our unity as a staff. It's about sacrificing for each other. It's not allowing division to root out anything that might tear at the fabric of our unity. It's not about personal gain. This is not about what Scott Hatfield's doing. It's about the name that's on the front of the jersey. It's our power and impact is found. There's just so much strength, and it's exponential when we do it together. There just is. And so it's about guarding our oneness. It means that we move toward a lack of unity with a lot of intentions when it comes to how we interact with each other as staff. We move toward one another. We address any issue. We resolve any conflict. We restore anything that might be something that the enemy can use to harm our team. And so this value, how it drops into our lives as men, and even the cultures of men that we create, is how we seek to keep unity in our friendships, in our marriages, in our work relationships, in our relationship with our kids, because this stuff matters. And there's some verses, and I don't want to read them all, but I'll read the first one as it just talks about the importance of pursuing harmony and unity. Psalm 133:1. It says, "How good and pleasant is it when God's people live together in unity." You guys read these other ones.
Yeah, I got one. Romans 12:14-18. "Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone."
Yeah, this was the verse John was going to read, but he's not here.
Call him out again.
Philippians 2:1-4. "If there's any encouragement from belonging to Christ, any comfort from his love, any fellowship together in the Spirit, are your hearts tender and compassionate? This makes me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, working together with one mind and one purpose. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble. Thinking of others is better than yourselves. Don't only think about your own interest, but also think about the interest of others." How about you, Daniel?
John 17:20-21, just from Jesus. "My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me."
Unpack any of those verses. What sticks out to you? Just why this is important for us. God makes it very clear.
I think just doing life with other men. Yeah. I've had a men's group for the last 5 years that has changed my view of community.
Yeah.
And, I think of the Romans, as far as it means you live at peace with everyone.
Yeah.
There's a lot of faults we all have to come in. We're bringing all of our own baggage in, so we all got to have grace for each other and then receive that grace. But when we can truly get in there and be willing to have a disagreement, but then come out on the other side still in harmony and still unified under the essentials of who Christ is and what he's doing in our lives. I think that's crucial for community and what it looks like for us as we live as men.
Yeah. I'd say, and reading through some of these, just like a rules list for a student ministry trip, if it's mentioned, it's because there's been an issue with it before.
That's right. That's right.
So I think
that's good.
Right, these are spot on. Our human sinful nature is bent towards selfishness, and it's bent away from humility. So I think we just have to be constantly reminded and extra intentional to choose to live in harmony with those around us. And I know it doesn't mean, harmony and unity doesn't mean you're always going to agree about everything. Yeah. But it's learning to maybe give a little and take a little and meet in the middle ground and be okay with being not okay agreeing with everything. So,
no, that's good. The challenge for us as men is to move toward harmony and to not just kick the can down the street and be passive when we notice something going on at home or with our sons or our daughters. Maybe something that seems unaddressed in our marriages or something even at work. It's like we're just going to fight for those things, and we're not going to do it in the wrong way. We're going to try to move that through into those places with a lot of humility and awareness to go, hey man, I don't know if there's anything I've done, or just so there are moments where we can be out of alignment. And what we want to do as men is we want to seek alignment, and whether that's with another guy friend or our daughter or whatever, we want to do what we can to do that. And so, in this value of harmony, locker room community, what are some areas in your life where you need to seek that? And if you've been kicking down the can, or some areas in your life that have gone unaddressed, you should move toward those with a lot of grace and a lot of discernment with God, but just seeking to do that. All right, hey, we're going to press pause on this episode as we look at the ethos of godly men with values, just for the sake of time, and we'll pick back up next week with part 2. If this podcast has encouraged you, I'd love to hear from you. If you're wrestling with Christianity, feel stuck, or just need help taking your next step, let us know. Give us an email at lockerroom@southland.church. And as always, if this podcast has encouraged you, share with a friend. We'll catch you next time for part 2 on Locker Room.